What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American, here today to react and continue learning about 101 differences between England and the United States. Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1, feel free to go check that out first, or stay here in Part 2. That's perfectly fine. But in Part 1, I started learning about some really surprising things about England. Stuff you really never hear about here in America, about what life in England is like, and all these little differences. Like in Part 1, we learned how sometimes in England, you take your dog into eating establishments, and that's okay. It sounds great. And apparently in England, you use or hold your fork and knife a little bit differently than we do in America. And in the bathrooms in England, there's often a pulley light string to control the lights, all this stuff. So today, I'm very excited to learn some more new things about how life in England is different to life here in America by checking out this video. It's by Wandering Ravens. Let's take a look.
In England, it seems that more people smoke than in the US.
Oh.
And those who do smoke usually roll their own cigarettes, something I had literally never seen.
Really? I'd like to see some statistics on this, maybe. Are there more smokers in England than or maybe a larger percentage of the population? I do feel like there's been a very big public service movement here in America, where literally for a long time, and you still do, you see adverts and marketing campaigns that are actively anti-smoking, trying to like sway the population of America to not smoke. And I do certainly believe over time it has become much, much more, or much, much less socially unacceptable. Not to say there's still a lot of Americans who still do it. And as for this rolling cigarettes thing, that's only something I've ever seen in movies. I didn't know anyone actually did that in real life. Rolling your own tobacco into a cigarette. That's interesting. I've never seen that. Let alone did I know that's actually common in England. Really? That's actually common?
Until I came to England.
Another smoking difference is that in the US, you don't really have people walking around and smoking. There's usually smoking zones where people go smoke. And if someone's smoking around children especially, someone will call them out and be like, hey, don't you dare smoke around the kids. But in England, we saw a lot of people just walking around smoking with children nearby, smoking, like holding a baby and smoking.
Interesting. This is just clearly a big cultural difference. Like, this is absolutely true. What they're describing as normal smoking behavior in England would be totally abnormal in America. It would be frowned upon, mostly. People just really don't walk around and smoke. It's not because it's necessarily against the law, though. Like, you can go outside and smoke. People just don't really walk around and smoke. Now that I think about it, I'm not really sure why that is in America. Maybe because it's just frowned upon? Like, socially? And we have designated smoking areas a lot of the time. Like in amusement parks, theme parks, there's areas where you have to be seated in to smoke so that you don't affect the other guests. Sounds like smoking in general is just a lot more normalized and accepted in England, for better or for worse. You know, maybe it's nice for if you're a smoker that you have that more freedom. Maybe it's worse that it's worse for your health. You know.
Yeah, but especially a lot of walking and smoking, that's kind of what got me, because when I'm walking down the sidewalk, I don't want to be stuck behind somebody who's just like letting off clouds and clouds of smoke.
Yeah.
It's not very considerate. Yeah.
So that was a kind of a culture shock as well as a difference.
Right.
During our time in England.
Yeah, that would be pretty jarring for most Americans. Like they're absolutely spot on. This might sound totally normal if you're in England, but they're totally right about all this stuff. Like all these little things, we'd be like, huh, that's different.
England, we noticed that not as many people are on their phones as in the US. You can let us know, like, if you're an American or if you're an English person, whether or not you feel that to be true, but we definitely noticed it to the point where it stood out to both of us.
That's an interesting one. I wonder if this is like an objective observation, though. If this is supported by the data, or are English people on their phone, your smartphone, less than Americans? I'd be inclined to believe that. I think as Americans, we are one of the, like, maybe the nation that is the most caught up in being online, being on social media, caring about other people's opinions, like, and just being, I don't know, for lack of a better word, addicted to our phones. As an American, that is so normal for everyone to have their phone, to be on their phone. I guess I kind of assumed it was the same everywhere in the world, but there's no reason that it has to be. I think that's fantastic if in England, if in England you are indeed on your phones less, that is a good thing. You guys have managed to escape the matrix, escape. It's a good thing to just experience the real world more. As wonderful as the technology is and how much good it does, I do think as Americans we have probably gone overboard, especially like the younger generations, where when you don't have your phone, or you walk away from your phone, or you forget your phone, and you have a visceral, physical reaction, and you're like, oh, something's missing. Something's missing. Ah! Like you've lost an arm because you forgot your phone. That's not good. That's not good.
All right, this is a rather large difference. Moderation. All right, so kind of it fits the stereotype. In America, when someone puts out a tray of snacks or goodies, they're all gone. If you have friends over and you put out a bowl of chips, all the chips will be gone. If there's there, people will consume them all.
Yeah.
But what we noticed was in England, when we went to different parties or different events and things like that, if someone brings out a tray of crackers or cookies or chips, people will take one or two, but then when the party ends, there'll still be a lot of snacks left over.
This is fascinating stuff to me. And again, it's really only things you can know if you experience living in England, like these two Americans have done. They've made the journey. They've captured the information on their scouting trip to England. But joking aside, it's really interesting to hear these observations. Just these little things, like they're talking about crisps when they say chips. They're talking about crisps. They're totally spot on, is what I'm thinking. In America, if you're at a party, a get-together, a gathering, and there's food, we indulge ourselves. And it's not really considered rude. That's the thing. That's the day. And maybe it should be. I don't know. Maybe we should have more self-control. But there's just a unspoken acknowledgement that everything's going to be eaten. People are just going to kind of help themselves. And there's no real expectation of, moderating how much we take. Now, you should not go up to the bowl and take every crisp out of the community bowl. You can go too far, but this idea that there'd be leftovers at the end, or people taking one or two or three, that's hard for me to even wrap my mind around. I mean, maybe it just speaks to how in America we just live in abundance and don't really, treasure that. Or, Yeah, I think so.
They don't just, feel the need to eat and eat and eat until it's gone. There's not really a need for that. So there's a sense of moderation. I've had two, I'm good.
Yeah.
Even if there's more, I'm not going to eat it because I already had enough.
Yeah, we don't have the greatest impulse control. Again, this is something, it's interesting because it's not, objective. It's not a measurable fact, but it's more of an observation. But I think this is so true.
There's one social group. We were able to join a bell ringers club for a couple weeks, which was a lot of fun. And
what? What? Stop. Wait, hold on a minute. We can't just gloss over this. What the heck is a bell ringers club? That is the most English thing I've ever heard of. Is that on the list? That's just a side story? What?
something that they would do was, in between bell ringing practices, they'd pass around a tray of cookies. Everyone would take one, and then they'd pass it around again. But most people on the second pass would say no, and wouldn't have another cookie. Which in America,
wow,
everyone would have another cookie.
And then they'd be like laying on the table in the middle for anyone to take more if they wanted. And in America, that would all be gone by the time that...
You know what else it is in America? I would bet you, like, we have bigger portion sizes. We eat more, I think. We're taught to eat more, and we're taught to finish all our food. So I think Americans are just kind of trained at this point to eat a lot, to help ourselves, and possibly physically be able to eat more. Like our stomachs have expanded or something.
Bell practice is over. You have to buy a new one every single week. I don't know if I've just never seen this in the States, but in England, they put vinegar on fries. Which is interesting, but it makes sense because you eat sea salt and vinegar chips back in the States.
Vinegar? Like the liquid? Onto fries, which in England would be chips. Vinegar?
Which is interesting, but it makes sense because you eat sea salt and vinegar chips back in the States.
Yeah. Crisps. They're saying sea salt and vinegar crisps. But pouring vinegar on your fries, like, we don't really pour vinegar on anything. That is a very strong taste.
Yeah.
So why would you not put vinegar on your fries?
And
I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that in my life. I guess I shouldn't knock it before I try it. That sounds very pungent.
And this is probably a great opportunity to mention that another difference between the US and England is what we mean when we say chips and fries.
Yes.
So, picture time. This picture! If you're in England, these are chips.
Yes.
And if you're in the United States, these are fries.
This is pretty well known, even to Americans. We don't know that much about England. We know this. This is like a famous terminology that in England, it's chips, not French fries.
And this picture, if you're in England, these are called crisps.
Right.
And if you're in the United States, they're called
chips.
Chips.
Yes.
In the United States, turning on the shower is generally pretty simple. You just like pull out and turn, or turn the knob. Turning on the shower in England feels a lot like driving a spaceship.
What is that? What is this? What? Why are there more than one dials? Huh? Wait, and there's a power button. What is going on here? What is this technology? What is this shower technology?
English people seem to know a lot.
Oh, they're not going to explain it? That's it? What is this thing?
On the shower in England feels a lot like driving a spaceship.
Is this normal in England? Why are there two dials? What do they do? What's the power button for? Why do you need power to your shower? What?
English people seem to know a lot more about American politics than we Americans know about theirs.
In America,
Yes, that's a good one. That's a good one. This is something I've become more aware of as well. This is just in general, I think. English people know more about America than Americans know about England or the UK for that matter. Totally true. I think in England, you just get exposed to American culture more, maybe through news or movies or TV or whatever, internet. And maybe you have more of a curiosity as well to know what's going on in America and how that might affect you. In America, a lot of Americans just, seem content to not know about the rest of the world, to not know what's going on or what other cultures are like or how other people are doing things. It's bizarre, to say the least. I'm not sure where this attitude comes from. I'm afraid to say it's a very negative thing. It might just come from maybe I hate to say it, maybe an American sense of superiority, or at worst, maybe something like that, where Americans, whether we admit it or not, we're like, well, it only really matters what's happening in America. That's really what only matters. So yeah, I don't know what's going on in England. Like, oh, who cares? Yeah, whatever. Like it does matter. It matters a lot. And you should try to be, aware of everything that's happening in the world as much as to your ability. But Americans really lack that curiosity or motivation. Combined with, in America, we're just not exposed. Maybe I can pass the blame off to our news or what movies we make popular, or I don't know if I can shift the blame at all, especially when we have internet and we can look these things up, but we're not even exposed passively to other cultures. Like, yeah, it's not good.
In America, what's considered a left and right political issue is different from what's considered a left and right political issue in the UK.
Really?
Healthcare.
I thought left and right, the political spectrum, would be the same, like, all over the world. Like political science, it's defined, left and right. Maybe what is considered left and right politics or opinions is different. Maybe the threshold is different in England. That would make more sense to me.
England, everyone loves the NHS, which in America, people aren't too excited about the idea of socialized medicine.
Yeah, talk things we don't bother to learn. How other countries do healthcare. Healthcare isn't even that talked about in America, despite all the issues we have here. It's like we've just accepted it as normal. There's a lot of things in America we've accepted as normal, which shouldn't be. That's the main takeaway, I think.
English supermarkets, they have eggs in the aisle, which is something you don't see in America because eggs are always in...
Eggs in the aisle? How are they not frozen? And they're brown. I feel like maybe I've heard of this. In England, the eggs are not white, they're brown, which I think because they're more natural. Like there's a coating on them. And somehow that allows them to not be frozen? Or refrigerated? Maybe?
In the refrigeration.
I vaguely understand this, I think, if I'm racking my brain about this. Most Americans, myself included, would be absolutely gobsmacked, absolutely confused. Like, a lot of Americans might not even want to purchase this kind of egg because we are so used to eggs needing to be refrigerated. I think a lot of Americans would be hesitant to buy eggs that are sitting out at room temperature. Like, it would just feel wrong to us.
Section.
In America.
Okay. And where are we now? Holy cow. Okay, we've been going at this for a while. This is such a fun video series. Again, this is by the Wandering Ravens YouTube channel. Awesome video. Really long video. Really enjoyable video. So I think I gotta stop here for now. And I look forward to continuing more of this in part 3. I learned a lot about England today. If you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on any of these differences between England and the USA. If these sound accurate to you, if you're English and this is accurate or some of this is wrong, feel free to clarify. That'd be awesome. And if you're interested in part 3 of this or just more videos like this, me reacting to England and the UK and UK culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.